So I want to share a quick thought today based on a comment left by a viewer on my last YouTube short. And I don't know if the person was being funny, provocative, or serious. Regardless, thank you very much for your comment. It made me think a little bit further on these issues. And I do believe, and that's my conclusion, that it highlights a common mindset flaw among people in this whole defensive tactics, integrative combatives, tactical training world, including law enforcement, either as an instructor or a student. If you don't know me, my name is Luigi. This is the Core Combatives Podcast. Let's go. So the comment was based again on this YouTube short, and I don't believe that I uploaded that short version to the podcast outlets out there. So if you're listening to this, wherever you're getting this podcast from, I will repeat here the analogy that I used to make people think more about finding the right specialties or specialists to address a specific problem. And again, in my last podcast video, I tell everyone about my own process as a martial artist and learning different disciplines because I never thought that one would have all the answers. And I'm talking about martial arts, but then we get the martial arts and we can easily narrow many techniques and a little bit from each to build our combat, empty hand combat system, right? So we have striking, standing grappling, ground grappling. And besides that, we need to also use different tools. And anyway, the analogy, I'm going to get to the whole thing, but the analogy was exactly this. If your problem is a screw, you're not going to use a hammer. You're most likely going to use a screwdriver. But if your problem is a nail, you're most likely not going to use a screwdriver, but you're going to use a hammer. And the viewer wrote that you actually can use the hammer if your problem is the screw. I don't disagree. It is true. If your problem is a screw, you might beat that screw, beat the crap out of that screw until the screw is flush to the surface. However, remember when I said in my last podcast, I heard this quote from two amazing instructors, combatives, and overall extremely well rounded instructors. And actually, one of them, Tom Kyer, will be here in Danbury, Connecticut this week in September 6th and 7th for an enhanced defensive tactics course. But what they said was success is not always evidence of best action. And when you look at the analogy, it's pretty obvious. It's very clear. And I also explained in my last video that I train in striking, standing grappling, whatever that could be, ground grappling. I break down everything in the last podcast. If you want to just, go back to my last episode, you're gonna see or you're gonna listen to what I explained. And I really got into firearms. I became an FFL and I trained with a lot of top tier instructors. And two of them use a term in a sentence that it resonated exactly in my mind. It tackled exactly the area that I knew that I was most deficient in. When they said that blades are the anti-grappling tool, and in one of my last shorts, yeah, I even highlight this part. I even play that, oh, it hurt my feelings. There was nothing emotional. I was just trying to be funny. But I knew that they were right because I explained again in the last episode that I learned counter edge weapons techniques in other disciplines that I trained, but I never felt that they were realistic. And having access and contact with people that have the right answers opened my eyes and made me feel like I need to learn this. I need to become a student again. and go through the steps. I'm not an expert at all. I'm still a student and I need to be even a better student. But I feel that I have a basic understanding, but I'm still looking for the best answers from the proper and best specialist. They will teach me their specialties that are proven to work specifically. So they are teaching me how to use a screwdriver so I can use correctly if my problem is a screw, or they are teaching me blade work and counter edge weapons and flexible weapons and many other topics around that to address specific problems. And I I see this happening a lot with many people that already master or have already some expert level and some skill. So maybe the person is a firearms person and that person believes that a firearm will be the answer for everything. And the reason I'm saying this is because the second part of it, the comment was that you don't bring a knife to a gunfight. And I do believe this is a very short sighted statement. And it seems that the person, and this is like very common, never really thought this through completely as a whole. I'm a firearms guy. I'm an FFL in Danbury, Connecticut. I do a lot of, I mean, I participate in a lot of training. I train people at a basic level. We, as a tribe here, my team, together with the Tienza Kali guys, we have been training together in a whole holistic day of training where we train. We have been training a lot of pistol, doing for many hours. Then we take a break. We do combatives and we do blade trains as well, integrating everything. And how do we integrate the blade training with the pistol training? Well, because we're talking about things that can happen very quick within a certain distance. So as a firearms, and I see this a lot among firearms people and police officers and law enforcement in general, not just police, but law enforcement from all levels, they do believe that the firearms will be the proper answer at all circumstances. Of course, obviously, circumstances where there's an imminent risk of death or grave bodily harm and the whole legal use of deadly force. And as a firearms person, I completely understand that distance will dictate if I will be using my projectile weapon or if I'll have to use another tool until I can draw my firearm. But regardless, I'm not going to break down here the whole tactical part of this whole thing. But we have to understand this. Let's play this mental scenario here. And I think that people have a hard time playing scenarios. But if you have a hard time being creative, playing scenarios in your mind, let me tell you this: go on YouTube. There's a channel called Police Posts. You can watch that. There's another one. I'm gonna try to find the name, but I'll link down below here. But there are so many, right? There's another channel that there's this guy. I forgot the name. Active Self Protection, I guess, and it's a great hub of information because he gets all these videos and he does his breakdown. I not necessarily agree with everything, but regardless, doesn't matter. Like, it's a great source for you to just sit down in the morning as you're having a breakfast and watch like 5 videos of things that happens in real life. I am fortunate to have a lot of law enforcement training at my place, and I hear their stories. I hear their experiences. And for instance, I'm gonna give you just like a quick one, and that I heard a couple times. Like, I was checking this guy, and I had to ask him to get out of the car, and he was complying initially, so he was being nice and etc. But when he realized that he was going to jail, all of a sudden I found myself in a fight. And I hear this over and over. And again, I'm not going to go over all the scenarios and tactics and etc. But at that distance, what is the most appropriate answer? I saw one, for instance, that actually was great. This shorter police officer, he was trying to handcuff a bigger dude at a gas station. And the guy, the tall guy, I guess the guy getting arrested, he turns his back. So he's kind of initially complying, putting his hands behind his back. But all of a sudden he spins very quick, which could become a, full physical fight there. Police officer didn't pull his gun. He didn't pull the taser. Hit the guy with the right hook, right to the jaw. You can tell that the police officer is a trained person because the hook was pretty good, not just a haymaker. It was a real right hook, and dropped the subject on the ground, knocked him down or knocked him out. And after that, he went to control and arrest. Again, it's a tool. That punch, it's a tool. We have it's a resource, and he used the most, I guess, adequate, proper tool there because he's the police officer was smaller than the guy. So why would he get into a whole grappling fight? And he could have maybe had a chance of dropping the dude. We know this happening all the time in wrestling, in jiu-jitsu, and etc. But I'm talking about real life and street fight. Not street fight, but you guys understand. A police officer trying to arrest somebody that's unwilling to go to jail. And for instance, you could think about, if we have a distance, I will use a projectile weapon. No question about if it's needed and if it's, the right thing to do. But at a short distance, we have been seeing more and more bad people using blades. And you need to know how to counter as soon as it happens. Or you are a police officer and I don't know, you getting in, you clearing your room, and somebody right away starts fighting you. And I don't know how that happens. Maybe you get pinned. Maybe the guy goes for your gun and try to open the retention of your holster, and you're fighting there. What is the easiest thing for you to draw, right? So if you don't know how your draws are, time your draws from inside the reactionary gap, drawing a pistol versus drawing a knife, and if you don't understand the different um, times, let's say, you will not always also understand that somebody can draw something and try to hit you with that faster than many times you can go to your weapon. So there are the two sides where a good law enforcement officer could use an edge weapon to as the most adequate tool to protect himself and to retain his weapon. And it could be also the other way around, where somebody brings a fight of a blade into a gunfight, right? Because it's a bad guy that has just the blade, and you within that reactionary gap, you searching the dude, and the dude immediately managed to pull the knife. You better know how to use the proper counter edge weapon, say defense, so you can even get to your firearm. But that is the point. The problem here isn't about the tool itself; it's about the mindset. And if you locked in one tool or one cliche, I think you're already behind. And what really matters are principles like timing, distance, awareness, and decision making. My goal, where I teach at my place in Danbury, Connecticut, is to make people as much capable as possible. And I do respect everybody's goals. And, some people like, I just want to train this, I just want to train that. I don't want to train integrated combatives, or there are some police officers that don't want to train defensive tactics, even though we offer in our integrated combatives training. and all that you want to do is jiu-jitsu, and that's absolutely fine. I respect everybody goes, but if they ask me, hey Luigi, do you think like there's a move in jiu-jitsu if I'm standing that it's appropriated against a guy going for a full thrust stab against me? I'm gonna say jiu-jitsu will not gonna offer that good answer. It might be the hammer hitting the screw. I agree with that. It might be the screwdriver grip hitting the nail. Yeah. You might be even successful, but that will not be evidence of best action. I hope I'm clear here. So dissecting this again, very quick. Regardless if you're successful using the wrong answer or the less appropriated answer, regardless of that, you still should be looking for the best answers and find your weaknesses in your training, in your knowledge, and in your mindset, software and hardware, right? And also, you cannot be just like, I don't feel like. I mean, you can be. It's up to you, whatever you like to do. But I feel that if you want to be fully capable and understand as much as possible of the whole spectrum, the whole violence spectrum, I feel that you cannot be emotionally attached to any tool or any technique. And this, again, it's another term that I really liked from the guys that I train under. And they say you should never be emotionally attached to software or hardware. Like, I was not emotionally attached to what I knew based on Brazilian Jiu Jitsu to address a edged weapon attack. I wasn't. I was never, because maybe because I exposed myself to many other different disciplines, I always thought that that wasn't the best answer. But I kept, because it was the only one. So I kept the hammer, right? I kept the hammer because it was the only answer I had until somebody showed me, like, here's a screwdriver. And I'm like, yes, that works better. But I'll keep the hammer because I might need the hammer if my problem becomes a nail. You guys see what I'm saying? And again, guys, check your mindset. Make sure that you don't have these gaps, these mindset gaps, these mindset flaws. Be true to yourself. Be honest with yourself. And to be honest with yourself, you have to also take in consideration your physical abilities, your age, your limitations, and where you live, and so many other different aspects. Your job. Are you a law enforcement? And do you want to have just one answer? Taser, pepper spray, or firearms, right? I mean, what about not having to use the taser because it is still not that situation, or it's just a person being, I don't know, out of control, but it's not like trying to do something lethal to you and just being drunk. And you need to put your hands, and you need to know empty hand combat in general, striking, standing, grappling, ground grappling. It could be that. And it could be that you are clearing your room while you're doing a welfare check. I'll give a quick example. Seen many videos of that. And the police officer enters a room, a guy rushes with a machete. So what do? At that very short distance. Okay, I'll pull my gun. Okay, have you been training enough to be able to draw as fast as possible and be accurate, and again, fast on your trigger and accurate with your firearm in order to disable the person before the person swings that blade against you, right? I mean, the scenarios are endless. There is absolutely, we could stay here forever talking about different scenarios, but we can narrow down to just be a complete person, just be capable, learn everything. Don't be emotionally attached to software or hardware. And I know that because a lot of people are like, oh, I have a folding knife and that's what I need. And okay, and but somebody gave me that, and or because my department only allows me to do that. It's okay, that's fine. Um, if that's the case, train with what you have. See how fast you can pull that. Um, or if there's no obligation of you using specifically that tool, what do you do? Well, don't get emotionally attached to the tool that you carry for 20 years. After 20 years, you might find out that there's something better and you go for that. And that's life. We are always evolving. Our mindset, we should be always rechecking our mindset. We have to be always rechecking and assessing the areas that maybe became obsolete. You outdated. There's something better. There's a new training methodology. And again, just be capable. Open your mind, check yourself from time to time. And not only that, set up a group of people that think alike, because you need sometimes your peers to call your mistakes. Somebody might say, like, hey, dude, I think that I don't think your mindset is 100% right. So again, always rechecking with yourself, always reassessing, being open-minded, find the right tool. A hammer will work against if the problem is the screw, no problem. But hey, why don't you get a screwdriver, right? Remember my last analogy? If you have a heart problem, you're not going to go to an orthopedic. That's the truth. Anyway, guys, send your comments. I know that this is an area that it's so weird to me, and I try to stay away from talking about that. But I've seen like so many instructors pushing their biases, and I guess um, I guess that's the biggest problem is really instructors pushing their biases, what they like, trying to tell people that that's the best, say, technology, that's the best software or hardware because that's all they know, right? And we have to understand that a lot of times, well, especially if you're law enforcement, you have to always remember that the person that you're trying to arrest or the person that is giving you a hard time will most likely dictate how the fight will go if you're not fully capable. Anyway, I'm Luigi. This is the Kore Combatives Podcast. Don't forget to like, share, send your comments, hit the notification button, and let's stay engaged. Have a great day, guys.